The sound was as bitter as the taste in my mouth as I pushed open the door of the bridal store, and through the forest of white tall silks I saw my sister Emma spinning around in front of a three-way mirror. When she saw me in the mirror, Emma's face beamed with fake enthusiasm and she said, "I was wondering when you were going to show up. Do you think it was worth every penny?" That was my entire savings. She turned to face me, full of innocence and confusion. "Oh, come on, Sarah, don't be so dramatic. I'll pay you back eventually. You know how important this wedding is to me, to all of us. Important enough to steal from your own sister." Stealing is such an ugly word, Hannah sighed, examining her own reflection once again. Yes, Jason Reynolds is Emma's fiancé and heir to the Reynolds fortune, old money, old reputation, old expectations, and if the wedding isn't lavish enough, they'll scoff at our middle-class background. She hesitates, doesn't meet my eyes. Emma says she'll pay you back. This wedding is a great opportunity for her, for all of us. The Reynolds family has a lot of connections. I'm the responsible one, the steady one, the one who works hard and is careful with her money, while Emma goes from one expensive whim to another. She shrugged, the beads on her dress glinting in the light. You really should change your passwords more often. Sarah's not very secure with anything using her mom's birthday. The way she casually admitted it made my blood boil, but before I could react, my phone woke up to a text message. Emma laughed. It sounded like a clinking glass. "Or what would you tell Jason? Come on, he wouldn't believe you over me." She's right. Emma has always been the best liar, the best manipulator, but what she doesn't know is that I have evidence she doesn't, not only of her theft but something even more damaging. The text I just received was from Marcus, the private investigator I hired after I found out about the theft. "PM. You have to pay me back before the wedding," I said, turning to leave. Emma called out behind me, her voice tinged with sarcasm. "What are you going to do, Sarah?" I looked at my watch. Just enough time to make it to Marcus's office, and as I drove through town I thought about how things had gotten to this point. Emma and I had never been close, despite our mother's best efforts. Emma bounced between expensive schools and failed entrepreneurial ventures, always supported by her parents' indulgent. Meeting Jason Reynolds was her golden ticket. He was everything she'd ever dreamed of. Rich in relationships, completely captivated by her carefully crafted character. Their whirlwind romance peaked after just 6 months. And Emma suddenly started planning the wedding of the century. Marcus's office was in a nondescript building in the center of town. Marcus's office was in an unassuming building in the center of town, the kind of place that was unobtrusive and perfect for someone in his line of work. He was waiting for me when I arrived. A thick folder sat on his desk. "Ms. Mitchell," he greeted me and sat me down in his chair. "I think you'll find this interesting." He opened the folder and spread out the photos and documents. "Your sister's fiancé wasn't quite what he seemed to be." I padded up and examined the evidence. Jason Reynolds turned out to have a secret of his own, a secret that would not only destroy the relationship, but would also destroy the relationship between the two of them. A secret that would not only ruin the wedding. "Are you sure?" I asked, picking up a photo of denim in particular. Marcus nodded his head expressionlessly. Every detail of the photo was confirmed. "The question is, what do you want to do with it?" Then, for the next hour, Marcus and I hatched a plan. It wasn't just about getting my money back, it was about teaching Emma a lesson she would never forget. That night my phone woke up with a text from my mother begging me to be sensible and think of the family. Early the next morning I received an email from Emma. "Dear Sarah, I know you're angry, but you're being childish. The money's been spent, the deposit's been. I know you're angry, but you're being childish. The money's been spent, the deposit's been paid. The contract's been signed, there's no turning back now, and I've got enough money to pay you back once Jason and I are married, so be patient, don't ruin it for everyone." Emma's arrogance is breathtaking. She really believes she can steal my life savings without consequence. That's what a lifetime of indulgence has taught her. The rules don't apply to her, she can do whatever she wants. I opened up my laptop and started to write my reply. "Dear Emma, you're right, you are right. Emma, you're right, the money was spent, but before you get too comfortable you might want to ask Jason about the money he spent going to Vegas and Angela's love for Sarah." I hadn't sent it yet, but soon, very soon, Emma was going to learn that her perfect life wasn't as safe as she thought. Over the next few days I watched as the preparations for the wedding went madly on. Emma had spared no expense to create the wedding of her dreams. The location was a historic mansion just outside of town, Guests included local celebrities and politicians. Every detail was carefully planned to impress Jason's family. I received an invitation from Mayo, cream-colored paper with gold embossing, and it was not without irony for me that I was invited to a wedding paid for with my stolen money. Would you RSVP? A week before the wedding, I went to see Marcus again. He had more information: bank records, text messages, surveillance photos. Jason Reynolds wasn't just cheating on Emma, he was involved in something much darker. Are you sure about this? I thought of Emma's smug look in the bridal store. I thought of the years I'd watched her take while I worked and saved, and her complete lack of remorse for stealing my future. I carefully slipped into the pale blue bridesmaid's dress she'd chosen. I was meticulous with my hair and makeup. Everything was meant to look normal until the most opportune moment when I walked into the bridal suite. Sarah, Emma's voice rang out, and she had put on her wedding dress, surrounded by bridesmaids and makeup artists. A flicker of uncertainty flashed across her face. My email about Angela must have disturbed her, and although she never replied, her mask of the perfect bride was back on. Great. She looked back at herself in the mirror and said that everything was going to be perfect, and that Jason's whole family was here today, and that they were ready to go. She sighed and adjusted her veil. Let's just say that they had certain expectations for this wedding, and it had to go exactly as planned. I thought about the men's envelopes in my car and the text messages I had planned to send at precise intervals throughout the day. Don't worry, Emma, everything will go according to plan. 2:30, as Emma took the last photo with our parents, I sent Jason my first text, just 3 words, I know Angela. I watched him read the text from across the garden, his face paling slightly before he quickly composed himself down. 15 At the pre-wedding cocktail party. At the pre-wedding cocktail party, I asked Marcus to deliver an envelope to Jason's room. Inside were some photos, not all of them, but enough to let him know that we had evidence issues. I asked innocently, noticing that Emma had been alone in the bridal suite for a while, and that she was pacing, her perfect gown swishing on the floor. You didn't say anything to him, did you? I adjusted the flowers in my bouquet. Where's the money you stole from me? Where's Angela? I came closer. You're not the only one who can reveal the secret. Emma, her face changed. You wouldn't dare ruin this. The Reynolds may ruin you, but they'll ruin Jason first, and then you along with him. Before she could react, our mother barged in. Emma, darling, the time was almost up. I left them there, and went to the ceremony. The guests were being seated. The string quartet played, and Jason stood at the altar, looking. 355 minutes later, the ceremony was about to begin, and I sent him one last text, a video, short this time, but devastating, and he watched it, and his face went from pale to gray. Ladies and gentlemen, the wedding planner's voice, please take your seats, the ceremony is about to begin. The music is playing, the guests are standing, the doors are opening, and Emma is making her grand entrance. She's glowing, and our father's smiling beside her, and they're walking down the aisle, 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 and they're walking down the aisle. They began to walk down the aisle. Halfway down the aisle, Jason stepped down from the altar. I can't do it, he said, his voice carried in the sudden silence. I can't do it. Emma stopped smiling, frozen. Jason, what are you? The confusion on Emma's face was real. Jason, what are you talking about? Who is Angela? And then just like cue, a woman stood up out of the middle of the guests. I'm the next few minutes of confusion. Angela turned out to be more than just Jason's mistress, she's his wife, and 3 months ago their marriage in Las Vegas, which was real and legal, and caused a lot of trouble for the Reynolds family, and Emma's perfect day came to a crashing end. Screams, cries, and accusations abounded, and Jason's father had to stop the guests from attacking his son as some of them flooded the venue in embarrassment and others watched in disbelief as it all unfolded. I'm in my bridesmaid's dress, watching silently as my sisters carefully build the world. You say, she's finally found me. In tears. You've done it all. No, Emma, you've done it all. Every choice you've made, every person you've stolen from, every lie you've told, it's all been for this moment. She lunges at me, and then all the pretense of grace goes out the window. I'm going to kill you. You're destroying everything. Our father catches her. She was screaming and struggling. Her perfect dress was torn. Her makeup was soaked with tears. Miss Mitchell. Marcus appeared at my elbow. Perhaps now would be a good time to discuss the finances. Emma was still silent. What finances? First of all, the theft of my savings, I said calmly. Unauthorized access to my account. The police were very interested in all of this. You wouldn't you? She whispered to your own sister. From the minute you decided to steal my future. The moment you decided to steal my future, you were no longer my sister. I turned to Marcus to show them as he opened his briefcase and pulled out the documents, bank records, and screenshots of transfer receipts from Emma's access to my account. "Emma," our mother whispered, "what have you done?" The consequences were swift and severe. The Reynolds family had reeled from Jason's scandal and didn't want to be involved in anything further. They took Jason away to deal with Angela's situation privately. I went to visit her at her parents' house later, and when she was forced to move back in, I asked her if it was worth it. I got my money back eventually, not all at once, but through a court-ordered repayment plan that would take Emma years to complete. The wedding menders claimed everything else, sold and used decorations and Emma's dream dress to make it up to them, and this time it wasn't Emma's wedding, it was my home, and my fiancé, who, unlike Jason, was honest and hardworking and completely truthful, and Emma hadn't been invited. And Emma wasn't invited, she was still running around with her legal problems, still living with our parents, still blaming me for ruining her life. She never understood that it was her own selfish choices that had ruined her life. After the wedding he started dealing with my company's security. DeBakey thought you'd like to know that Jason Reynolds had just divorced both of his wives, and I smiled at the thought of karma and the consequences of it. Emma wanted a perfect wedding at all costs. Instead, she learned that she wanted a perfect wedding and that she wanted to make it up to her perfect wedding. Instead, she learned a valuable lesson about the price of perfection. When I started planning my own wedding, moderate, meaningful, honest giving, I wondered what real love and family should look like, not a fairy tale based on lies and stealing, but something real, strong, and true. Emma chose her own path, and now she's going to have to live with the consequences, and I'm finally lived my life the way I wanted to with the money I honestly earned, and that's worth more than any perfect wedding ever could be.